Okay, so let's look at the memo for our employee sales. Let's look at the generate. So what we did when we created a array with the 7 names that's supposed to be on the left hand side. We made it a constant because it's not going to change throughout the program. We also got a sales array which has got the sales figures for all 7 rows and 4 columns, and that's all be integers. We've got a row total array, a column total array, and our row and column integers that we can use for our for loops. So first one is the generate one. So to generate, we wanted to put random numbers between 500 and 2500 of type integer in all of the values in the 2D array. So that means we needed our 2 for loops, our rows to go 1 to 7 and our columns to go 1 to 4. And then our sales at that position, at position R, C, rows, columns, it must just get a random number, highest minus lowest plus 1, plus lowest on the outside, and then we just needed to display. For the display, we created the procedure again. So on top we wrote procedure, display, Control Shift C, and that took us to this display form. For this, because we wanted to go line by line, we needed a variable that we can use to compile the line so that when we're done with the line we can just display. So we did a .text to clear what's in there and then just put the employee sales on top as a heading to have our 4 quarters as headings. And then we started for our 7 rows. When we started each row, this must start with the name at position R plus a tab. Then we can start with each of the columns. So the row must become whatever the row was plus our sales, but it was an integer, so we needed to into string this and then just add a tab. So that would have put all 4 values in the row. So when we're done with the 4 columns, then we just needed to display that row. We added a tab and then we could also display our row total so that it's just after that row. Then at this end, meaning we're done with all the rows, then we just needed our column totals. So there were 4 of them, just separated by tabs, so we displayed all 4 column totals. For our change button, so we wanted to change a value. So first we needed to find out whose value do we want to change. So we asked for the name of the person, and then we needed to know which quarter of that person do we want to change. Then we did our for loop to go from 1 to 7 to go through the 7 names to go see the name that we want to change. Where is it inside that array? If we know the position, then it means that is the position that we want to change once we found that name. Then the only thing we needed to do in our sales array, at the person's position of which one he wanted to change and the quarter he wanted to change. We can just ask for the new value, just made it, input box gives us a string, so we just had to make it an integer to put it into our integer array, and then we can just display everything again. So just again how this worked. So let's say he wanted to delete quiz. What this would have done, it went through this one to check, is the first value quiz? No, it's not. Is the second value quiz? No, it's not. Is the third value quiz? Yes, it is. That meant it kept the 3, and then it meant it went row 3, column whatever the quarter was, and then it gave the new value at that position. For our totals, we just needed to initialize them to 0 again. So all 7 rows and all 4 columns, we just made 0 again. That was just so that if the button gets clicked multiple times, that it doesn't carry on increasing, that we can start over. Then we wanted to go through the whole 2D array, so all 7 rows and 4 columns. Then we have to remember each value is part of a particular row and it's part of a particular column. So this value needed to be added to that row and that column. So that's why when we get each value, it needed to be added to the particular row and to the particular column. This needed to be done for the whole 2D array And when it's done, we just need it to display again. For our diagonals, we said we're just going to work with the first 4 names. So we initialized our variables to 0. We went through the whole 2D array, but only the first 4 rows. And then if our row is equal to our column, the coordinate, so our diagonal left is a 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. So the row is equal to the column. And we just added that to the diagonal left. And our diagonal right one, because it's a 4 by 4 2D array, that means the total of this first one, because it would be row 1, column 4. So the total will be 5. So if we add our row and a column, that should be 5. Then it's our diagonal right. So that would have gone through the whole 2D array, and then we just display it when we're done. The next two is just one-dimensional questions. So for best employee, we were just working with each row total. So what we did, we assumed the first person was the best, or he had the highest sales. So we kept the row total as the highest sales, and we kept his name as the highest name. Then we went through all 7 positions in the row total, and we compared the row total at that position to the highest sales. Every time we get a higher total than the sales one we've got now, we will keep that sales and put that into high sales, and we'll keep that person's name and keep his name. So that will go through all 7 sales, and every time comparing it to the highest one, and once it gets a higher one, it will just replace the highest with that particular sales and that particular name. And at the end, we just displayed the name. And then our worst quarter, that means just we're going to look at the 4 quarters, and we just want to look for the worst one or the lowest one. So same principle applied. We're going to assume the first quarter is the worst. So the first column total is the worst sales. We do a for loop to go through all 4 quarters. If a quarter's total was less than the worst sales, that means we want to keep that total and keep that position or that quarter. That would have gone through the whole 4 of them, checking every time if there's a smaller one. Once there's a smaller sales, it will keep that sales and the position, and then at the end we could just display the position. Okay people, so that's our memo for our 2D arrays for the sales. Good luck with this. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.